There is a specific kind of night most people know well. The day was fine, you functioned. You answered messages, handled what needed handling, kept moving. Nobody looking at you would have known anything was wrong. And then the house got quiet, and everything came at once. The thing you said 3 weeks ago that you cannot stop replaying. The decision you have been avoiding. The fear about where your life is going. The version of yourself you thought you would be by now. The relationships that feel off. The things you have not done. The things you cannot undo. None of it waited for the morning. All of it arrived at night. If this is familiar to you, if you function reasonably well during the day and then find yourself overwhelmed the moment everything goes quiet, you are not alone, and you are not falling apart. What is happening to you has a specific neurological and biological explanation, and understanding it changes how you relate to those nights entirely. Here is what is actually going on. During the day, your brain stays occupied. Work, conversations, decisions, screens, movement. There is always something external demanding your attention. And while that external focus is happening, a specific network in your brain stays quiet. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network. It is the brain's internal processing system, the network that activates when you are not focused on any immediate task and your mind is left to wander. The default mode network is where self-referential thinking lives. It is where you process your past, worry about your future, and think about yourself in relation to the world. When it is running without any external task to interrupt it, it defaults to whatever is most emotionally charged and unresolved in your life. During the day, the constant stream of external demands suppresses this network. You do not have space to spiral because there is always something else to focus on. But at night, the external world goes quiet, the distractions disappear, and the default mode network activates, often intensely, often suddenly, often with everything you have been successfully avoiding all day arriving at once. Research on individuals with anxiety consistently shows that this network is more hyperconnected after dark. Negative, self-focused thinking becomes more intense at night, not because the problems are worse, but because the brain's ability to suppress them is lower, and the network generating them is more active. There is also something happening in your body that makes this worse. Cortisol, the stress hormone, follows a natural daily rhythm. It peaks in early morning to help you wake up and stay alert. It gradually declines throughout the day. By evening, it should reach its lowest point, allowing melatonin to rise and prepare your body for sleep. Research from Harvard Medical School confirms that this biological rhythm affects not just your energy levels, but your emotional regulation. When cortisol is low and stable in the evening, your emotional defenses are proportionally more available. But in people under chronic stress, and chronic stress includes long periods of feeling behind, stuck, overwhelmed, or uncertain, this pattern gets disrupted. Cortisol remains elevated into the evening. Your body stays in an activated state when it should be winding down, and you arrive at bedtime already chemically primed for anxiety, not rest. A study published in the British Medical Journal in February 2025, one of the largest investigations of its kind, involving more than 49,000 participants, found that happiness, life satisfaction, and feelings of worthiness peak in the morning, while depression and anxiety symptoms are consistently at their lowest during that same period. The pattern reverses as the day progresses. By night, the numbers have shifted significantly. What that study confirmed is that this is not a personal failing. It is a measurable, biological pattern that affects tens of thousands of people. There is also a third factor that almost nobody mentions. Dr. Michael Grandner, a professor of neuroscience and physiological sciences, describes it directly. Evening hours reduce executive function, the brain's regulatory capacity that normally manages worry and keeps anxious thoughts in proportion. After a full day of functioning, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational perspective, emotional regulation, and the ability to say, "This thought is out of proportion," has depleted its resources. It has been working all day. By the time you lie down at night, your cognitive defenses are significantly lower than they were in the morning. The thoughts that you could manage or redirect at 10 in the morning feel insurmountable at midnight, not because they are worse, because your brain's ability to regulate them is genuinely reduced, and then memory gets involved. Research on the relationship between the amygdala and hippocampus, the brain's emotion center and memory center, shows that this connection intensifies during evening hours. The hippocampus becomes more active in retrieving past experiences, which is why nighttime anxiety so often comes with vivid, specific recall. The conversation from 3 years ago, the moment of failure, the version of yourself you were most ashamed of. These are not random. They are your hippocampus running at elevated activity, surfacing what your emotional system has flagged as important. If you have gotten into a pattern where this happens most nights, there is a second layer to understand. The brain is an anticipatory machine. If it has learned that night equals spiral, it begins to expect the spiral before it arrives. The anxiety about the anxiety starts before bedtime. The dread of lying down becomes part of the cycle. Poor sleep worsens next day anxiety, which makes the following night harder, which worsens sleep again. Research describes nighttime anxiety as a distinct neurobiological state, not simply daytime anxiety happening later, but a specific pattern with its own mechanisms and its own cycle. So that is why it happens. Now here is the part that changes how you relate to it. The anxiety you feel at night, the thoughts that arrive when everything goes quiet, is not meaningless noise. It is not proof that you are broken. It is not your mind attacking you for no reason. It is information, and it has been waiting all day for you to be still enough to receive it. One of the oldest findings in psychology is something called the Yerkes-Dodson law, established over a century ago and consistently confirmed since. It found that performance and alertness peak at intermediate levels of stress, not when you are completely relaxed, not when you are overwhelmed. In the middle. Some anxiety is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, flagging what matters, keeping you engaged with what requires your attention, helping you prepare for what is ahead. Research published in Scientific Reports in 2022 by researchers at University College London found that anxiety increases information seeking in response to significant changes or uncertainty. Rather than being purely destructive, anxiety functions as a compensatory mechanism, an attempt by the nervous system to regain a sense of control by understanding the situation more fully. In other words, your anxious mind is not your enemy. It is your system trying to help you, just in a way that has gotten louder than it needs to be, and arriving at a time when you have the fewest resources to process it. What does this mean practically? It means the question is not how to eliminate anxiety, it is how to decode it. Anxiety is most useful when it is specific, tied to a real, identifiable situation, when it is proportionate, uncomfortable enough to notice, but not so overwhelming that it prevents any action, and when it is actionable, pointing you towards something you can actually do, prepare for, or address. When it is vague, when it floods everything without a clear target, when it paralyzes rather than prepares, that is a different signal. That is anxiety that has become chronic and habitual. That is the loop rather than the message. And that kind is worth seeking support for, because it is no longer delivering useful information. It is delivering noise. But the anxiety that comes at night when you finally stop moving, the specific fears, the specific regrets, the specific questions about your life that you have been too busy to sit with, that version is often trying to tell you something real. Maybe it is pointing at a relationship that needs honesty. Maybe it is pointing at a decision you have been avoiding. Maybe it is pointing at a version of your life that has slowly moved away from what you actually want and value. Maybe it is pointing at how tired you are and how long you have been running without rest. Anxiety almost always points towards something that matters to you, not because it wants to hurt you, but because your nervous system is trying to flag what deserves attention. So tonight, instead of fighting the quiet, instead of reaching for the phone to fill the space before the thoughts arrive, try something different. Let it be quiet for a moment, not forever, not in a way that overwhelms you, but long enough to ask what the anxiety is actually pointing at. What is it trying to tell you? Because buried inside the noise is usually something specific, something honest, something that, if you listened to it rather than silenced it, might finally point you somewhere worth going. You are not broken because the nights are hard. You are human, with a nervous system doing its best to process a life it has not had enough silence to make sense of. Give it a little silence, and listen.